It's Open Line tonight. I'm Carrie Sharp, sitting along Mayor David Briley and Lonnell Matthews Jr., the Public Safety and Youth Policy Advisor here for the city, answering your questions tonight. That's what Open Line is all about. So we're going to get right back to it, answering them in the order that they're taken. Emily, thank you for being with us. What's your question?
Hi there. Can you hear me all right?
We sure can.
Okay, thanks. This is a question for David Briley. I've heard a few times that you've said that you have questions about the Community Oversight Board as proposed by Community Oversight Now. And I was wondering, what are those specific questions, and why have you not had a chance to meet with Community Oversight Now before they now have the ballot initiative drafted and hopefully on the ballot in November? Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. We touched on that a little bit, but go back and review. What are your concerns?
Right. So I guess the primary concerns I have about it are first, the budgeting part. Generally, we do not budget through charter amendments, and I'm not a fan of that part of it. The other part is the composition of the Community Oversight Board itself. I believe that it needs to have a public safety element to it as well in order for us to build the kind of trust and cooperation that we need between the police department and our citizens. Those are the two primary concerns I have about it. I don't know why I didn't have a chance to speak with them before they started collecting signatures. I don't. Well, I can't. They have not asked me directly. Okay. I don't know. I can't speak to the staff.
Sure.
But I can say, actually, I think they started collecting signatures before I was mayor. I think they started before March 6th. So, or if they did start, it was soon after that. So,
would it be appropriate to sit down with them now if they wanted to?
Well, I've sat down with many of them individually, but not about this particular issue since then. But I'd be glad to sit down with them at any time. And as I've said, if it passes, we will do our best to implement it as it is. And I have not taken action on a citizen oversight board by executive order to give deference to this process and let it run its course.
If this does make it onto the ballot, will the city run an informational campaign saying this is what we hope to do if you don't vote for this, or you're going to just let it be?
The city itself, the government, won't get involved in the referendum.
Okay, let's go now to, I think Sarah is next. Hi, Sarah.
Hi.
Go ahead.
I have a question for Mayor Briley. In your recent press conference, you stated that policies and procedures needed to be reviewed. Can you tell us what specific policies and procedures need to be reviewed and why?
We've talked about this as well too, but it is, I mean, these are really key questions that people just want to understand and kind of get their minds around.
So as I said before, obviously we have a use of force policy. We should have a de-escalation policy, and then we need to look generally at how we're policing in terms of what we talked about before, the high intensity policing in certain areas of town, and looking for, as I would say, minor infractions, and with the hope of finding a more serious infraction. But I'm no expert on it. I just know that it's something that we need to do with the help of experts. That's why we asked the Policing Project to come in and follow up on the original work that was done.
And you're saying they may have a report as early as next month.
Well, I hate to put them on the spot like that, but we hope that they'll be here next month, and if they don't have a final report, they'll certainly have an update for us.
And how long have they been conducting this study? Been really ingrained there in the police department?
Well, it started before I became mayor.
Started around January.
January.
So.
Okay, so they've had a good 7-8 months at this point. Yeah. Okay, let's go back to the lines. Let's see, we have Darcy waiting ever so patiently. Darcy, thank you. What's your question?
Hi, thank you. I have a question for Mayor Briley. First, I want to ask him if he knows that we currently have the exact same amount of police that we had 6 years ago in a city that has had exponential growth. Are you aware of that?
I know that we have authorized more police officers than we previously had, and the police department continues to hire officers. But unfortunately, right now, the number of police officers either retiring or leaving is greater than the number we're able to hire. We have the ability to go hire more. We're just we're not.
Well, you don't have the people coming in to be hired. and you don't have, I mean, who in their right mind would want to be a police officer in this day and age? And when you don't even approve raises for the people that are the most important in our community, such as teachers and police officers, you don't do a cost of living raise, how can you afford to pay more police officers? I mean, we are grossly understaffed as police. And my other question to you is, can you name the last person that was murdered in Davidson County most recently?
Can I name the person that was most recently murdered in Davidson County? I probably can't by name, but I know that there was a robbery, a victim of a robbery on Apache Drive, I believe, over the weekend, who may well have been the last person.
Yeah.
But these people that have been murdered, who are nameless, okay, we've had 2 police shootings in the last year and a half. Both were black males, both convicted felons. This most recent young man, unfortunately, had a rap sheet with 40 charges. 6 of them were aggravated robberies, okay, convicted felons, and this man got shot. Now, if you're a police officer and you're trying to do your job, you're trying to keep the community safe, you look up this guy, you see his rap sheet, you see he's got a gun. Now, are the police just supposed to let a criminal go because they run? Or are they supposed to stop them and keep the community safe?
Well, I mean, I think that I certainly appreciate the sentiment that our police have a difficult job to do, and I think I already said that tonight. And I think I also said previously that I would have loved to have been able to afford a cost of living adjustment for our officers this last year. The budget just didn't allow it this year. Now, in terms of what happened in this particular instance, I think we all need to let the TBI and the district attorney complete their investigation so we can find out exactly what happened under these circumstances. I agree that we need to do everything we can to keep our city safe, but we also need to be thoughtful about how we police. We don't need to be putting officers unnecessarily in circumstances where they're going to have to make these split-second decisions. And so that's what the Policing Project and the Community Oversight Board are really all about. It's about both policing in a more effective way and requiring accountability, and that's what I'm for.
Lonnell, I can tell you want to jump in.
If I can,
Sure.
I just want to say I don't think that we should be speculating in this particular instance, especially bringing up someone's background, former record or charges. We shouldn't dehumanize anyone in this instance, and so I don't think the speculation is warranted. I think, like Mayor Briley said, we should let the TBI conclude their investigation and base it upon facts.
I want to ask you this question. I mean, you guys know this. You hear it day in, day out. There are passions equally high on both sides of every policing argument there is. And I just wonder, through the Policing Project, through what you guys are trying to dig into, to say, how do we bridge this gap? Are there cities that are getting it right that you have seen that we can learn from?
Well, I think this, of course, it's a national issue.
It is.
And we've seen it across the national and the media, and there are real stories that back that up. I think there are cities that have probably better engagement and are building more trust between the community and law enforcement, and we have to learn lessons from them. We have to build some social capital amongst our community and making sure that we're putting our law enforcement officers in situations where they can build those relationships, where they can really engage with the community on a personal level and get to know people and be able to call people on their beat by first name and have conversations and dialogue with the community outside of when there's just an incident. We shouldn't be having these conversations when there's something that happened wrong. We should be having these conversations all the time, when times are good, when times are when we're celebrating holidays, when we're celebrating different things throughout the city that we accomplish as a city. We need to continue to build that social capital.
No one's going to argue that we don't have enough police officers and they're not paid well enough, especially with this last budget and them not getting a raise. What's being done right now to make sure that is not the case next budget?
Well, we are working very hard this year to make sure we're trimming every single expense we possibly can, so that when May 1 comes around in 2019, we're in a position to give an across-the-board cost of living adjustment to our officers. Around 80% of Metro employees did get an increase in their salary last year. They just didn't get a cost of living adjustment on top of it. But we're working hard to cut expenses this year and to find revenue that is sustainable to put into the budget this year. And I'm cautiously optimistic that unless there's a downturn in the economy, we'll be in a position to be able to do that this year. Let me say one thing about cities that are doing good work. I think it would be a mistake not to acknowledge the good things that are going on here in Nashville, because we certainly have had some tragedies. Certainly some things have not gone right, but year before last we had a real spike in violence at Casey Homes in East Nashville, and we found some more resources through MDHA and have been doing more community policing there, and we have seen crime go way down in Casey since then. So we're making progress in some respects. There are just some things we could do better, and that's what the policing project and community oversight are all about improving on the quality of life and safety here in Nashville.
On that note, we're going to take a quick break. Ronnie, I know you're on the line. Bill, Gail, we're going to get to you all when we come back. Stay with us.